I think you can say that the Australian hotel industry is incredibly disappointed with this roadmap. This roadmap will have the effect of driving many mum and dad operators straight over a debt cliff. There was no mention of any compensation for hotels or other hospitality operators. They're likely to be closed until at least, we don't know, maybe July or August. Cafés and restaurants are limited to 10 people. We simply don't know why restaurants, which have the capacity to sit people 4 square metres apart, can't be able to seat however many people they can seat at 4 square metres apart. There's a whole range of other retail operators out there that are allowed to have people walking around at 4 square metres, and we just don't know why the hospitality industry and especially pubs should be treated any differently. It was a lot of uncertainty and lack of clarity today in the announcement. The Prime Minister said at one stage that the pubs would reopen in stage 3. The document we've received from the government says that consideration will be given to bars reopening in stage 3. So we don't have a timeline. We don't have even certainty as to whether pubs are going to be open in stage 3. At the same time, the states who are a big part of putting this document together are still sending out land tax fees in the tens of thousands of dollars. We've still got councils sending out rate notices. We've still got a whole range of other costs just to say shut. I mean, you drive past a pub or a restaurant and you look at it shut, you think, well, it's in hibernation. Well, it's not in hibernation. The fact are those businesses are bleeding up to about $30,000, in some cases up to $300,000 a month. And we want very clear answers about when we can open and also how we're going to be compensated for being the sacrificial businesses.
Stephen, we're just getting a little bit of break up there, so apologies. I missed the last section of the point that you were making. But, I mean, the Prime Minister did say today, he did concede that ultimately it is a state's decision. So, you know, a Premier may well decide to bring that forward if they would like to. So what's your play here now? Do you start putting pressure on the Premiers and the Chief Ministers to open earlier?
State document. I mean, there's 9 people in the room, 8 states and 1 Commonwealth. The states are the people that
this industry, such as pubs, cafes and restaurants. So now it really is down to the Premiers and First Ministers in each state to provide clear answers to their hospitality industry as to when they're going to open the doors. But I say also again that the debt keeps piling up. These mums and dad operators are going to be driven to the wall. They mortgage their house to open a business, mortgage their house to run a business that employs people, and we're going to be the last ones out, and there's no clear direction as to any compensation at all. So the JobKeeper package is fantastic. $120 billion looks after workers, but there's nothing there to stop people losing their homes.
What is a realistic time frame, in your opinion, then? How long can they hold out for?
Oh, it all depends how much savings they've got in the business. So it really is, you know, no one knows, but you've got to imagine that people, I mean, I don't know any business, any household with a mum and dad running it that can accrue $30,000 burning cash every month for, you know, up to 4, 5 or 6 months. It's just not sustainable. At the same time, they're having to borrow $150,000 for an average pub to service JobKeeper, and they only get that paid back every 6 weeks. So, you know, they're incurring a lot of debt, helping the government through. We've always had the health of our staff and patrons at the forefront. We're the first industry to shut down, and we're going to be the last industry to come out of this. And we need greater clarity from the Premiers especially as to when they're going to open hotels, because we've employed 250,000 people, and they want answers as to when they're going to come back as well, and so do all our supply chain.
Craig Laundy was on the show, was on Sky News a little bit earlier, and he says there's basically no point to reopening with just 10 patrons inside, and that would probably be the same for 20 patrons as long as they're keeping their distance. He said that that's just not financially viable. Is that something that you agree with? I'm guessing that it is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, as Craig said, that you've got 10 people eating meals with a chef and a waiter. I mean, there's 2 staff, you know, fair enough, they might be on JobKeeper, but what you need to understand is that you can't turn on 20, you know, if you've got 10 people in a restaurant that holds 100, so you've got 10% of the revenue, when you turn the business back on, you've got to turn on the refrigeration, turn on all your electricity, and that has to run at 100%. So you're not going to be able to. It's only the very small cafes and restaurants that will be able to open in that regard. The other people just simply won't be able to afford the fixed costs that are required to open your business.
Do you have a rough percentage of how many businesses, in your opinion, just won't make it? They won't be able to make it till July. They might have been hoping to be able to reopen sometime sooner, but July is just going to be a bridge too far.
Well, they were expecting to open sometime sooner. They were backing themselves to be able to work on the 4 square metre rule. That's now been thrown out the window, and now we've got a 10-person rule. At the same time, we've got gymnasiums opening in stage 2, so it's all right to go and sweat and carry on in a gymnasium, lie all over the floor, but after you've been to the gym, had a shower and had a wash, you can't go and sit with your mate in a pub and have a cold beer. It doesn't make sense.
OK, well, just finally, Stephen, what's your play now? What are you going to do?
Well, we've now got to go and start talking to the premiers. Obviously, they're in the driver's seat. I think the Commonwealth has a role to play, though, in working out how they can ensure that these businesses are there on the other side. I stress again, this is not hibernation. These businesses are burning cash, and we need them there on the other side. We've looked after the employees with $120 billion. I don't know the size of the package that's going to be required to help businesses. There has been a cash boost program, but there definitely now needs to be some sort of funding to help these people come out the other side. Otherwise, we're going to have homes lost and a tremendous mental health problem for an industry that serves its community. Every time there's a bushfire or flood, pubs are at the forefront. And this time we need to stick our hand up and say we need a hand.